Federal government moves to establish aircraft maintenance facility. Lagos, Kano, Abuja to get more from 75 billion naira survival fund. Oil and gas exports hit $3.71 billion in 13 months as global price rise after elections in the U.S. Plus, Asia-Pacific stocks jump as investors react to Biden's presidential election win. Details of this and more on Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. As part of government's alleviation scheme, the federal government has approved the disbursement of Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Survival Fund for artisans, and survey from the FCT has it that disbursement of funds commenced on 2nd November 2020 in Wuse Market. Wofai Ibo has the details.
Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Revolving Guaranteed Offtake Scheme is one of the federal government's economic support measures to assist micro and small businesses affected by the pandemic. And beneficiaries of the scheme in Wuse Market in the nation's capital commended the federal government for the laudable initiative while drawing attention to those who are yet to receive the funds.
I have collected my own, but most of my members did not collect this money.
I thank God for what the government wants to do for us, but where the money goes, they say we should write name, all of us will write name. People remain, there are plenty more than us collect.
More than 2,000 artisans across the 70 local government areas of Plateau State have access to the federal government Artisan Survival Fund. Ndenyang and the Abagang reports.
Dusu, an automobile mechanic, Rachel Auta, a bag maker, and Peter Kwada, a shoemaker, have one thing in common. They are all small and medium-scale entrepreneurs that had been hit by COVID-19 as the lockdown forced them to close up. Fate has, however, smiled on them. They are amongst over 2,000 artisans in Plateau State who have benefited from the one-off 30,000 naira conditional grant under the federal government's 75 billion naira survival fund scheme.
The way things are going now, no matter how little, it helps. So we cannot say that 30,000 is nothing, it doesn't help. No, it actually helps.
During the pandemic, we lost customers because people hardly come to sew. Now that we got the 30,000, it has really helped us because we needed working capital.
It will help us to buy some material to improve in our work.
4,500 artisans were earlier captured and trained on how to manage the fund for sustainability. Artisans are being encouraged to formalize their businesses with the Corporate Affairs Commission, as this will position them to access more of such government interventions.
To make it easy cheaper and timely for Nigerian airlines to maintain their aircraft, the federal government says it plans to establish a maintenance, repair and overhaul facility in Abuja. It also added it has concluded plans to establish an aviation leasing company in order to enable Nigerian airlines lease aircraft at cheaper rate. This is part of its efforts to optimize business opportunities in the Nigerian aviation value chain. Well, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria says it owes the Central Bank of Nigeria more than 4 trillion naira. The corporation in a statement noted that current inflationary trend could push the debt owed the CBN to 7 trillion naira by 2024. Managing Director of AMCON, Ahmed Kuru, says non-collection of the debt currently in excess of 5 trillion naira would have negative effect on the national resources. AMCON pointed out that there is a dire need for all sister agencies of the federal government to join forces to ensure the economic saboteurs who intend to cripple the banking sector before AMCON was set up are compelled to repay the huge debt that is weighing down the Nigerian economy. And the federal government says a whopping $656 million is still required to complete work on the Lagos-Ibadan Railway project. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amici, gave this figure while defending the 2021 budget of the ministry before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Land and Marine Transport. The minister, who said the amount is needed to put in place necessary infrastructure for the project to serve its intended purpose, adding that the Ibadan-Kano Railway project also required an injection of $645.3 million as advance payment to enable the federal government complete its loan signing agreement with the China Exim Bank.
The ministry, in its budget proposal, has presented amounts required for completion of some of the projects by year 2021, while others may span up to 2022. Under our railway modernization program, the ministry is happy to report that the construction of Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge line has reached 92%. We will be needing adequate funds to be provided in the 2021 budget proposal to facilitate the completion of the project.
Your ministry is a very important ministry, although all ministries are important, but given the quantum of money being allocated to the Ministry of Transportation in the budget.
Now, Nigeria is deliberately putting in place cost-effective buildings in line with the Paris Agreement as global economic players align with environmental expectations. Liakatun Babatunde had a chat with the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, on Nigeria's preparation for future buildings and jobs in the construction industry.
In line with the Paris Agreement signed by President Muhammadu Buhari, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing developed and launched the Building Energy Efficiency Guideline BEEG and the Building Energy Efficiency Code BEEC. And it is for that reason that we are speaking with the Minister for Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. What is the difference between BEEG and BEEC?
Well, as the names imply, one is a Building and Energy Efficiency Guideline, that's the BEEG. The other is the Building and Energy Efficiency Code. Now, the guidelines mean what they are: general framework to guide people in the built industry as to what they should be looking at in the development of new buildings, in terms of how buildings should now be designed, generally in terms of lighting and all of that, natural lighting and all of those type of things. The code itself is a more specific, detailed minimum requirement of energy use in any building and gas emission in any facility. So the guidelines go from the general, while the codes go to the specific in terms of quality of material and so on and so forth. Those are what you find in the codes, and they are minimum standards.
Okay, so how far have they been implemented?
Well, we are seeing various stages of implementation across the country, even in this room where we are having an interview, you will look at all the light fittings now. They've been changed to energy efficient bulbs. 6 years ago, they were either sodium-based bulbs or fluorescent bulbs. And if you go through our building now, you will see that we are walking our talk. So perhaps by way of more detail is to share with you that in the Ministry of Works and Housing, we are currently changing over 400 air conditioning units to energy efficient types, and we're changing over 2,600 light fittings, and that's going on as we speak. And if you also look outside where you came, you will see a large solar farm built across our car park now. That will deliver 1.5 megawatt of electricity when we complete, hopefully in December or early in the year 2020. So all of our generators are going. So in terms of compliance, we're moving in those lines.
Okay, why the emphasis on energy reduction? And
well,
perhaps maybe if you could add and tell us how this is sending to the subnationals.
Well, I think that the history of mankind itself has been a history of more efficient search and use of energy from the time of the early revolutions, agrarian to industrial, when the first form of energy was firewood burning, then we went to coal, then we went to paraffin, then we went to diesel, more hydrocarbons today. And the world is learning a different lesson, that we cannot sustain our uncontrolled extraction and of carbon fuel and our unsustained and uncontrolled emission of greenhouse harmful gases. And therefore, for the sustainability of human civilization, we need to control the emissions. It is resulting in climatic problems, it is resulting in extreme weather. We're seeing extreme fires, we are seeing extreme rain. So it is important that we do this first for the survival of the human civilization. More importantly, it is also a new economy. Just like the extraction of oil and gas was a new economy compared to coal, just as coal was a new economy compared to wood. This is where the human civilization is at today. And the Paris Agreement that you referred to in the beginning really sets the framework for what the whole world essentially has agreed to do.
Okay, so in terms of counting the cost now, how will it affect the cost of building in Nigeria?
Well, what you will see first is that in some instances, particularly as regards the fitting, like some of these energy efficient equipment, because some of them are not made here, there might be some initial cost outlay arising from some foreign exchange components and all of that. But in the long run, when you look at what you save, it nets off and it lasts longer as a much more efficient use of our resources. Because energy efficiency really at the end of the day is also supposed to create business, living, and human efficiency. Even before the launch here, anyway, many of us were aware of what was going on across the world. So those days where you would have small windows, where you would have poor lighting, where you need electricity bulbs on 24 hours. You won't see the need for those in all our buildings, even though they were designed before the formal launch. What you will also see is that the fittings in any event are all compliant with the BEC, the code itself. And because designs are also dynamic, we continue to do research and development, and so we're updating some of our designs also as we go along, because things are changing.
So, because things are changing now, what would our future buildings look like?
Future buildings will be buildings that really optimize the fundamentals of the energy guidelines and also meet as much as possible, not the minimum, but the nearest maximum thresholds of the energy codes. If you go to our buildings now, essentially everything that is used there is made in Nigeria, except, as I pointed out before, the some of the fittings that are electrical, like some of the bulbs and all of that are not made here. Not all of them are imported. So if you start from the laterites to the foundation, the filling, to the cement, to the reinforcement, to what have you, timber for the, all of these are locally sourced. The doors, the paint, the binding wires, the nails. So all of these are locally sourced. And as the country evolves in its industrial journey, we will reach that zero import for building. But the truth, again, is that we must be mindful as we seek to optimize our business economies that there is no nation in the world that produces everything our people need. No nation. So it's just to be more efficient. Just as we are able to produce our own food, some countries just can't try. They import almost all their food, especially in most of the Arab areas, Arab world, apart from Israel, the Middle East. So no country has everything. But what we should aspire to do is to use what we have for our own optimal good.
Okay, so in terms of using what we have for our optimal good, how do you see this impacting the jobs that we desperately need?
Oh, it's already having a very positive impact on all our construction sites. If you were here a few months ago when all of the solar panels here were being installed, I have data of how many people, skilled and unskilled, were employed. And we're also trying to get the data of what is happening in the private sector, because a lot is going on there in terms of compliance with the energy codes and guidelines. So many small, medium, and large businesses are retrofitting and converting at a scale that really we need to keep our eye on. So, because I'm not sure that the national energy mix is capturing the full width of the investment that is going on in terms of cleaner and efficient energy deployment, especially the solar system. There are many factories, small businesses whose energy has been converted to this type of lines, and so there's a lot going on.
Going forward now, what do we see for Nigeria's future in the very, very short term?
We see Nigeria increasing her play in the cleaner energy civilization. We see Nigeria keeping her side of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, especially as relates to the nationally determined contributions. We see Nigeria also optimizing the opportunities for employment and economic growth that are inherent in the development of cleaner and efficient energy forms. So there are many opportunities there, and I see that things can only get better from here, and because the journey is already underway.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
Before I say thank you, sir, just
Moving on, gold prices edged higher in early Asian trade on Monday, propped up by a weaker dollar and hopes of more stimulus measures under U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. This is coming just as cocoa prices are up as chocolate makers increase their buying pressure on the soft commodity on the basis that demand would pick up, especially during festivities like Christmas. The federal government is set to introduce a robust agricultural mechanization program aimed at boosting national food production. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed says the $1.2 billion that will finance the program is captured in the 2021 budget.
It's meant for government to borrow, to on-lend, to tractor assembly plants, to on-lend to businesses that will set up processing centers at senatorial level as well as at local government levels.
The Nigerian government and Brazilian government agreed that it's in-kind loan, not cash. The in-kind equipment is leased out to the service center operator, who participates in deciding what type and size of equipment is fit for the services in his or her local government or their local government.
A total turnover of 2.067 billion shares worth 22.636 billion naira in 25,187 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange. In contrast to a total of 1.909 billion shares valued at 23.610 billion naira that exchanged hands last week in 23,578 deals. The financial services industry, measured by volume, led the activity chart with 1.575 billion shares valued at 13.725 billion naira, traded in 14,521 deals, thus contributing 76.21% and 60.63% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. The consumer goods industry followed with 178.574 million shares worth 3.609 billion naira in 4,669 deals. The third place was the conglomerate industry with a turnover of 102.697 million shares worth 155.195 million naira in 599 deals. Trading in the top three equities, namely Access Bank PLC, FBN Holding PLC, and Zenith Bank PLC, measured by volume, accounted for 686.338 million shares worth 7.599 billion naira in 4,557 deals, contributing 33.21% and 33.57% to total equity turnover volume and value respectively. The NSE All Share Index and market capitalization appreciated by 1.56%, and 1.59% respectively to close the week at 31,016.17 and 16.207 trillion respectively. Similarly, all other indices finish higher with the exception of NSE Main Board, NSE Insurance and NSE Oil and Gas, which depreciated by 0.62%. 1.32% and 0.77% respectively, while the NSE ASEM index that closed flat. 40 equities appreciated in price during the week, lower than 68 equities in the previous week. 24 equities depreciated in price, higher than 6 equities in the previous week, while 97 equities remained unchanged, higher than 94 recorded in the previous week. Meanwhile, transactions at the stock market on the first day of trading for the week ended in positive territory as investors await positive banking reports. The NSE All-Share Index rose by 3.96% to close at 32,243.05 basis points as traders exchanged 636 million shares valued at 8.2 billion naira in 7,210 deals. Market capitalization stood at 16.8 trillion naira. Banking stocks dominated activities led by Zenith Bank, FBN Holdings, and Access Bank. We end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag It's Business. Business Express returns Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. I am Benny Adams saying, keep thinking and doing business while you also stay safe.